All right, so now we're going to try this problem called the Berry method, okay? So this is example 3 from the work that we had done before. Now, here is what we're going to do. We're going to follow the same pattern that we did before, where we look to see if the front and the back terms multiplied to something, but then added to the other thing. So remember with our decomposition, we highlighted the fact that we pulled the 3 and the 28 together, and we look for something that times to, well, 84, positive 84, but then added to negative 20. Now, when we do this, we can go through all of the possibilities. Now, I'm going to go through a basic possibility for you for factors of 84. So the factors of 84 could be, well, negative 84 and negative 1. And the reason why it's going to be negative is because of the n term here. It needs to add up to a negative number. So both of those numbers must be negative, because when we multiply those numbers, they must total to be a positive number. And that's why we get that. That's why we have negative 84 and negative 1. Now, another factor of 84 is negative 14 and negative 6. And now what we have to do is we just need to check to see if these numbers add. So negative 84 and negative 1, when you add them together, you're going to get, negative 85. And you notice that that would not work for 84 and negative 20. But if you take a look at negative 14 and negative 6, you'll notice that the total when you add them together is negative 20. So we're going to use this as our decomposition of the factorization. Now remember, when we did our work before, we used to take our values and split them up like this. We'd split it up and have like negative 14x minus 16x. We're not going to do that anymore. With the Berry method, what we're going to do is we're going to still decompose it, but here's what we do. We go straight to the factorization part where we have two linear brackets of stuff. And we look at the first term. You notice that our first term has 3x squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 3x in the first bracket and 3x in the second bracket. Now, what that tells us, if we took this and multiplied it out, you'd notice that there was an extra multiple of 3 in there. But we got to figure out a way to get rid of that. So we'll do that eventually. Now, let's talk about the decomposition. Remember, we said that negative 14 and negative 6 were what we split negative 20 into. So we're just going to write in our first bracket negative 14. And into our second bracket, we're going to put in the second decomposition of negative 6. Now, if I took a look at this problem that we have constructed here, there is a big problem. If I expanded this, there would be an extra value of 3 in there, okay? Now, because we took out 3x and 3x, what that did was it added an extra multiple of 3 into our bracket. So the key right now is to look at that and say, all right, we have to pull off a total multiple of 3. So let's just make sure that we put that in for now. We have an extra multiple of 3. And how do we get rid of that? Basically what we do is we got to look in each bracket and we look to see if we can divide 3 from everything inside the bracket, or some multiple or something like that. So in this case, I look at the first bracket here, right? The first bracket. Is there a common factor? there's no common factor. The only common factor is a 1. We can't do anything. Have we divided out that multiple of 3 yet? No, we haven't. But let's go and take a look at the second bracket. Both of these numbers can be divided by 3. So if I divide 3x by 3, I get 1x. And if I divide negative 6 by 3, I'm going to get negative 2. So this means we can rewrite this equation as 3x minus 14 and x minus 2. And when you go and take this problem and multiply it out, you end up with the original. And guess what? You're done factoring. That's it. So now let's go look at what we did before when we were doing the decomposition of that other stuff that we did previously today. So now let's move on to that problem and try it out. So let's go and try this one first. So today, this is the problem we're going to start with. So now, remember we started with this basic problem at the beginning of the lesson, okay? Now, here's what we need to do. We need to look at the front and the back of our problem, okay? And we're looking for a number that timeses to, what's 4 times 3? 12, positive 12, but then adds to the middle term, 8x. So it's got to add to 8. So now I'm just going to put a little box over here, kind of keep that out of the way. And now we're just looking for two numbers that multiply to 12. So we're going to try 12 and 1. Nope, that doesn't work because when we add it, it doesn't work. But if we do 6 and 2, it works, right? Now, using the Berry method, we go straight to the bracketed form, right? And we look at our front term, 4x. And all we're going to write in our bracket is 4x and 4x again. Now that we've got that, we go back to our problem, and remember we decided that 6 plus 2 was what our decomposition was going to be. And now that we've got that, we're going to take that, and we're going to take that number of positive 6 and positive 2, and we're going to put that inside our bracket. So we're going to get positive 6 and positive, you guessed it, 2. Now, we have to look for a total value of 4 that we pull out from either the first or the last, or a total of 4 from the two of them. So now let's look at each of these brackets. So the first bracket, the greatest common factor in this case is 2. So we're going to divide everything in that one by 2. And we look at the second bracket. We divide it by 2 again. Oh yes, 2 times 2 is 4. Guess what? We are good. So now when we come out with our final answer, we end up with something that looks like this. Well, 4x divided by 2 is 2x. 6 divided by 2 is positive 3. And now 4x in the second bracket divided by 2 is 2x. And then 2 divided by 2 is positive 1. And guess what? We're done. Now, the reason why this works is because we took out a total of 4 from both brackets. Okay? Let's try the second equation that we tried at the beginning of the day for our problem. But this time we'll add one extra step. Okay, so example. Right, here we go. So imagine that we have something that looks like this. 8x squared minus 13x. No, not 13x, minus 26x. And then minus 24. Now, Normally you would go through this, but what you want to do is you want to look at each one of these terms right away and see if you can pull out, if you can divide everything by the same number. In this case, we can divide every number in our problem by 2, so we can rewrite this original equation into this. 2 bracket 4x squared minus 13x minus 12. Okay, so that's a skill that you need to be able to figure out really quickly. Now we can go and apply that decomposition stuff that we were doing before. So we need a number that multiplies to negative 48, but then adds to the middle term here, negative 13. So now that I've got my little box here, I'm going to go through and come out with some number. So we came up with negative 16 and 3. And negative 3 were what we were looking for. So once we've got negative 16 and 3, what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite everything that we had before, but now everything that's here in our bracket, we're going to write as 2 brackets right away. And we're going to take that 4x squared that we had here, and we're literally just going to put in the next line 4x and 4x. So now the decomposition is going to go here and here. So we're going to get negative 16 and negative 3. So now we have an extra 4, factor of 4 in each of those brackets, either in one bracket or distributed between the 2 brackets. So let's go and find that. So let's look at the first bracket. So inside the first bracket, the Berry method says we're going to try to pull out the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor in this one is going to be, first bracket, I can divide this by 4 and 16 by 4. So I'm going to pull it out. So divide it by 4. And the second one I'm going to divide. Okay, perfect. So we pulled out a total of 4. So guess what? Berry method says this is perfect. So now we just write 2 and finish up our bracket. So 4x divided by 4 is x. Negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. And we're left with, in the other bracket, just 4x and then minus 3. And we're done. And we are done our factoring. Okay? Your job is to do the problems that I've provided for you from this textbook that I found. Try them out. See if you can come up with all the solutions. Good luck.